Cultural influences shape how students see school, how they interact with adults and peers, and how they make sense of new information. Culture affects communication styles, concepts of time, views of authority, and ideas about collaboration or independence. For English learners, these cultural norms influence how comfortable they feel speaking up, asking for help, or participating in classroom activities. When educators recognize these cultural influences, they can design instruction, routines, and expectations that feel familiar, respectful, and accessible to students and their families. Cultural competence is the ongoing ability of educators to understand, respect, and effectively respond to the cultural backgrounds of their students. For English learners, cultural competence means teachers are aware of their own assumptions, intentionally learn about students' cultures, and adapt instruction so that content, examples, and interactions are inclusive. It is not about mastering every culture, but about being cautious, reflective, and responsive. This competence allows teachers to build trust, reduce misunderstandings, and create lessons that connect to students' lived experiences. EL cultural values and beliefs can be integrated by using texts, examples, and topics that reflect their historic traditions and perspectives. Teachers can invite students to share stories, artifacts, and family practices as part of a class project, literacy activities, and discussions. Classroom norms can also reflect cultural values such as honoring collective work, respect for elders, or particular ways of showing courtesy. When a student's cultures are visible and valued in the curriculum and routines, they see that their identities are an asset, not something to hide or leave at the door. Culture shapes how students learn, what they pay attention to, and what feels meaningful or motivating. It influences learning styles such as preference for group work or independent tasks, as well as comfort with teacher-centered versus student-centered instruction. For ELs, culture also affects how they interpret feedback, expectations, and classroom behavioral norms. When educators intentionally connect instruction to students' cultural backgrounds, learning becomes more relevant, engaging, and effective. School and classroom environments strongly influence language acquisition. When ELs feel safe, welcomed, and respected, they are more willing to take risks with language, ask questions, and participate. Inclusive environments include visual supports, multilingual signage, predictable routines, and clear expectations. Steps to create this environment include modeling respect for all languages and cultures, using supportive peer structures like partners or small groups, differentiating tasks, and ensuring that ELs see themselves respected in the classroom materials and displays. To support and celebrate cultural diversity, teachers can use diverse text, images, and examples across content areas, not only during special events or holidays. They can also plan lessons that invite multiple perspectives, encourage students to compare and contrast cultural practices, and highlight contributions from many cultures to science, art, history, and literature. Teachers can also design projects to where students research and shape aspects of their identities and communities. Consistently acknowledging and affirming diversity helps normalize it as a strength in the classroom. Leveraging home language means treating it as a resource for learning, not a barrier. Teachers can encourage students to use their home language to brainstorm, take notes, discuss concepts with peers, and connect new vocabulary to known words. Providing bilingual materials allows translanguaging during group work, and inviting families to contribute to stories, sayings, or texts in their home language are powerful strategies. Recognizing cultural assets might include integrating community knowledge, traditions, and problem-solving approaches into projects and discussions so that student backgrounds actively support academic learning. Responsiveness begins with understanding that no two ELs are the same. They differ in prior schooling, literacy in their first language, exposure to English, and possible disabilities. Teachers can use ongoing formative assessment to identify strengths and needs, then provide differentiated support such as sentence frames, visuals, graphic organizers, or alternative ways to show understanding. Collaborating with special education staff, counselors, and families is essential when ELs also have special needs. Instruction that is flexible, scaffolded, and asset-based allows each student's identity and abilities to be honored. To meet EL's social and emotional needs, schools can create predictable routines, buddy systems, and structured opportunities for positive peer interaction. Teachers can incorporate community-building activities such as circles, cooperative learning tasks, and storytelling, where students can share personal experiences in low-pressure ways. Social-emotional check-ins, visual emotional charts, and explicitly teaching languages for feeling and problem-solving help students name and regulate emotions. Partnering with counselors and culturally responsive mental health providers and offering safe spaces for bilingual expression supports well-being and belonging. Understanding these needs ensures routines are respectful, accessible, and predictable for ELs. When routines reflect cultural norms around turn-taking, respect, and communication, students are less anxious and more able to focus on learning. Clear visual schedules, consistent language cues, and modeling of expected barriers reduce confusion and cognitive load so that students can conserve energy for language development. Prioritizing cultural and emotional needs for routines builds trust, increases participation, and creates a classroom where students can take academic risks. Family and community practices provide rich, purposeful language contexts, stories, work-related vocabulary, rituals, and problem-solving strategies that shape students' conceptual understanding and discourse patterns. Drawing on these funds of knowledge connections, school tasks to real-world use make language learning functional and meaningful. When teachers link classroom content to community practices, students can transfer home-based skills and vocabulary into academic contexts, strengthening both language and content learning. Build partnerships with families. By communicating regularly, using family-preferred languages and channels, and treating families as experts about their children. Host flexible events, virtual and in person, at a variety of times. Invite family members to contribute in curriculum or classroom activities, and create roles for families that match their strengths. Establish two-way communication, solicit family input on goals and supports, and follow up to show how their contributions shape classroom practice. Effective practices include providing translated material and interpretation, offering bilingual workshops on supported learning at home, and sharing simple, actionable strategies families can use, like storytelling prompts, vocabulary routines, reading aloud in any language. Encourage families to share books, songs, recipes, and photos, and create multilingual display spaces where students' home language are visible. Train staff in culturally and linguistically responsive communication so interactions are asset-focused and collaborative. Inclusive community engagement means productively reducing barriers, provide childcare and transportation, schedule events at accessible times, offer language supports, and use multiple outreach channels. Partner with community organizations, faith groups, and cultural leaders to co-host events and validate diverse practices. Ensure feedback loops so community voices influence decisions, and measure participation to identify and address who's missing from engagement efforts. In closing, leveraging EL's cultural and linguistic assets require curiosity, humility, and intentional practices that centers students' identities. When classrooms and schools honor home languages, invite family expertise, and build culturally responsive routines, ELs gain stronger academic, social, and emotional outcomes. Thank you.